Welcome back to another episode of FinCrime&Me. I am growing my channel and growing my community, and with that, I need your help. So currently, I have 78% of you that have not subscribed to my channel, and I would absolutely love if I can have your support. Subscribe to my channel, help me grow, help my community grow, and help me bring further amazing guests. Today, we have Morgan Williams, who is a co-founder and COO at BlockRadar and an advisor at Antigrow. I actually met Morgan in Singapore when I was there for work. And honestly, I had the best evening, not just because we were having Singapore slings, by the way. It was just so fun learning about her, seeing how she's relocated from America to so many different jurisdictions, and seeing her navigate and grow through her career as well. Welcome, Morgan.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Pearl.
I am so excited to have you here, not only because I haven't seen you in so long, so I feel like this episode is kind of a catch-up.
It is, indeed.
But you've also left Coinbase since I saw you.
That's right. Yeah, because last time it was probably a year and a half ago now, and I left Coinbase around a year ago, a little over a year ago.
Yeah. And you're doing some amazing stuff like COO at BlockRadar and also an advisor at Antigrow. Morgan, how has it been from scaling markets at Coinbase to co-founding BlockRadar? And what inner shift happened to you to help you, go from building someone else's dream to actually building your own?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. To be honest, I thought I was always going to be building other people's dreams. I didn't anticipate the, entrepreneur and co-founder journey whatsoever. But I think that there came a point where I realized, okay, I need to actually pursue my own goals. And so when I think about my time at Coinbase, it was a great setup to be able to launch BlockRadar. And there is a reason why people say Coinbase is such a great founder factory. And I think it's true because you learn a lot of good principles, determination, you learn persistence, so a lot of things you need to actually be successful as a co-founder. And so, when I was at Coinbase, I was supporting the team launching markets in APAC. And so I learned a lot about setting up entities and what it looks like to talk to regulators and, how to go to market, what are the partners you need to actually launch, what are the partners you need to grow. And so all of that experience really set me up to, I think, be in a really good spot to be an operator at a startup. And so when my co-founder, because he started BlockRadar actually before I joined him, reached out, I more or less helped him in an advisory capacity.
Okay.
And so I was helping him with go-to-market. And, after a while, I think I became really sold on what he was trying to create and build with the customers that he already had in private beta. And so I said, this is actually a really great opportunity to actually double down on stablecoins. The customer segment that we serve right now is mostly emerging markets, so doubling down on emerging markets. And then finally, being able to actually have a really good overlap with my competency and skill set with his. Mm-hmm. And so it just was a really easy choice to join him.
To go into that.
Yeah.
Did anyone in Coinbase kind of inspire you or push you towards what you're doing now?
So when I think about, being inspired from my time at Coinbase to start my own thing, I actually had two colleagues, one who was an engineer on the base team and then another colleague who was on the BD team on the base team. Both leave Coinbase and start their own startup. And I saw how much success they were having in their, early days and how much confidence and competency they had to actually build these startups from the ground up. And so, for me, I consider myself equal to these peers of mine.
Yeah.
And so if they can, why can't I? And that's kind of what I thought about. And as I mentioned, all of the different opportunities I had at Coinbase really made me feel like I was set up for success to get started.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely inspiring to me. And I think many of my audience as well, because it's not easy to go into the startup mindset either. And I do agree with, what you said when you think you're always just going to be helping someone else's dream. And to take that really takes a lot of courage to really start doing your own thing. And it's so uncertain, so unknown. You're learning so much.
Yes.
And I think there's sometimes also an element of fear. And I know I say that sometimes to even myself with this podcast, if I'm honest. Like, I still can't believe I'm doing this. But sometimes I'm also just like, feel the fear and do it anyway. And I think once you get into that mindset, it really helps you push personal
100%.
boundaries.
100%.
So you've worked across APAC, Africa, many other locations, and that also means that you relocated quite a bit.
Yes.
How did these environments shape you to understand, different opportunity, also different risks, and also leadership?
Yeah, so I think, the first place I relocated to was Colombia. So I moved to Latin America. And Latin America culturally is very different than the U.S., although there's so much cultural influence of Latin America in the U.S. And I actually learned that, particularly Mexican influence in American culture. And I learned that when I went to the grocery store and I couldn't find like traditional salsa that I expected or just different things. But I think moving to Latin America was such a different style with respect to leadership, decision-making, execution, that I was kind of in for this like ride of learning literally every day. And that's actually what's exciting for me. And that's why I like, building a startup. And that's why I liked being at Coinbase and really all of the last companies I've been at, because every day I learned something new. And in the case of being in Colombia, in Bogota, I was learning different things about the market, about the regulatory environment, about what it looks like to have a business that, is illegal at the moment in a market, and how do you actually still run that business in a way that is productive for both sides of your customers. At the time, I was working for Uber, so both sides of your customer spectrum. And so also decision making, right? I think when I think about the U.S. and I think about American culture, it's generally very flat. It's very much a democracy. You have your leader, your boss, whomever is like, hey, like, how do you feel about this? What do you think? Like, how do you, and you would argue, or I would argue as an American, that those are the best leaders. Those are the best bosses who really want to take in the feedback from their team. But one of the things I've now learned is that America is a low context culture, which essentially means democracy and building trust is fundamentally different than how you might see in a high context culture, which would be like Latin America, places in Africa, places in Asia. And so decision making is very different. It's less of a democracy, right? And so you give your feedback and sometimes it was taken, many times it wasn't, right? I think the other piece too is trust building. How do you build trust, right? And I think that's something that, I'm learning even more so now being at BlockRadar, is that a lot of closing deals and talking to our customers really means going there and actually meeting the customers. And it's not like we go have a business meeting, we sit at a table like this, but maybe we're going to play go-karts, that honestly.
Actually building rapport.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, outside of a work setting.
Exactly. That means having a meal. That means just hanging out at a side of it together, right? And just those relational experiences is actually what solidifies the trust. And so I think those are things I'd never learned when I was in the U.S. And honestly, feel a bit contradictory to how I, how my career started out, right?
Yeah.
And so I think one of the main things that I've learned from having lived abroad in multiple markets is really being flexible in what leadership looks like and what trust looks like and what customer acquisition looks like and what regulatory conversations also look like.
And also how different cultures maintain business or trust you to give you your business. Because I found that with, I do a lot of presentations and training sessions for everyone, especially law enforcement outside of the US. So I predominantly take care of the international market. And what I've noticed, especially for when I met you in Singapore, and that's why I spend a few more extra days when I am going for work, and it's just to build that rapport. Even if I'm traveling somewhere, I do try to meet the law enforcement, agency in a different setting, not just all business and not just me presenting to them and training them, because that's when you really build a rapport. They then trust you to listen to what you have to say as well, or trust you to, give a good training session. Otherwise, in different cultural settings, it's just, if all you're speaking to them is for a transactional, method, it's not taken well.
Yeah.
Or they will listen, but will they really trust you after to on board with you? Not really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think decision making in the US is very merit based. So it doesn't matter if I can drink with you, if I can party with you, if I can go, these social activities with you. It really matters about your execution and your documented success.
Yeah.
Whereas that is not the case. And it's actually really funny. I have a partner, and this particular partner was considering using our solution and the industry leader who's been around for 8 years, right? Now, this particular partner, when I was talking to them about using their wallets or using our wallets, they said, I want to use you guys. I don't want to use X company because I don't know those guys.
Yeah.
And this company has tens of thousands of employees, a reputation of success. And not to say, oh yeah, you should go use the competitor, but I have never heard someone be like, I don't know those guys. It's like someone saying I don't want to use Coinbase because I don't know the leadership team.
Exactly.
But that is how the frame of mind and decision making is when then we have American clients and they're like, you know what, we're considering the two, but actually maybe we want to go with the other guys because they have, 8 years of proven success.
Yeah, that is very true. It actually helps when you understand the geographic in a people's way rather than, figures. And I think that does help, especially if you are a startup. I think personally, in different societies and different backgrounds, if you do have that personal touch, you would probably be a competitor just because you've taken time to learn about them, taken time to know them instead of just pushing your business onto them.
Exactly.
So BlockRadar is focused on financial infrastructure of underserved markets. Is this a project that's close to your heart? And what personal values or experiences lead you to be a COO at BlockRadar? Yeah,
so I'll first say is that BlockRadar is a global company. We have customers all over the world. However, our core market segment that we want to serve is emerging markets, and that's because we see the largest adoption of crypto and stablecoins in those markets. And I think what's most important is that we see real adoption, real world adoption. You see use cases of cross-border trade. You see use cases of remittances, people wanting to have dollar, pound, euro-backed savings, and they can't access those things through traditional banking system and traditional fintechs that they have. And so these market segments are the most important to serve first, right? I think it will be a while before places like, obviously the regulatory landscape here is evolving, but places like the UK and the US where you see everyday people really leveraging crypto and stablecoins outside of speculation, right? Outside of, having disposable income and now having a new investment category and class.
Yeah.
The trading use case is very much prevalent in our hometowns, right? But in emerging markets, it's not that, right? Some people do want to have savings, and so they'll choose stable coins, right? Because they're saying, hey, if I just hold dollars, even if it doesn't have any yield, I'm saving against my devaluating currency. And so, when it comes to my personal interest or involvement, my personal North Star has always been financial inclusion. and economic freedom, which is one of the reasons why I actually chose to work at Coinbase, because of that mission, right? And so I feel like what we're doing and how we're supporting fintechs in the ability to now offer their customers stablecoins is directly like aligned with my personal North Star. That is the quickest way to be able to now give fintechs who have billions of customers, like think of like, you know, the largest fintechs who have the same relationship that like Chase Bank or HSBC has with like Americans or folks in Hong Kong or the UK. But it's M-Pesa, it's Flutterwave, it's OPay, it's all of these, you know, RappiPay, like it's all of these apps that people have built their financial trust in. And so now by being able to give these organizations this new product offering, now you're giving their customers a new level of a lifeline, right? A new way to actually receive funds in from family members, a new way to do cross-border trade and more effectively. So I think like, again, when I first started talking to my co-founder and I heard what he was building, I was like, this is like super aligned with everything that I've wanted to do in my career. So yeah.
It is a really good way to actually bring something that isn't in underserved markets. You know, personally being Indian, but actually my family is from East Africa. I fully understand how, you know, people there don't trust the banks. I go back home every year and it's actually interesting how everyone talks about M-Pesa as, you know, the best way to transact, but they also are now starting to speak about crypto, and it's so hard for so many crypto companies to actually, you know, adopt their landscape there. Just because of regulation, just because of how the markets are. But I don't think a lot of companies understand that they did mobile banking way before we did.
Way before.
So their adoption of crypto would probably be such more of a smoother road than, you know, teaching them from basics. Because they just trust mobile banking. It's so normal.
Exactly.
Like we can... you know, in Africa, you can actually get your, you know, groceries delivered by the local guy downstairs. And it's so normal to have that. And then you just instantly send it via M-Pesa.
Yeah.
Right? So even sometimes when you think about it over there, the adoption of crypto would be super easy and super quick. It's just embedded in them.
Yes.
On the phone, quick and easy transactions.
That's right.
But do they trust the banks? No.
Exactly.
And would they trust crypto where it's in their own phone?
Yes.
Yeah, they probably would. And they're probably waiting for it.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Like places like Southeast Asia, I think, particularly like somewhere like the Philippines where, you know, I had worked at one point, is exactly an example of that. You know, if you look at a market like the Philippines, it has some of the same structural issues that you'd look at LATAM or Africa. You have high percentage of the population that's underbanked and unbanked, right? But you see a regulatory environment that promotes innovation. And so not only do you have an environment that promotes regulatory innovation, so now you have a regulatory regime for crypto, but also you have high smartphone usage, right? So you have these folks who are now just doing all of their payments and everything through GCash, Maya, the Filipino version of M-Pesa. And so now, you know, I don't know, this was like now maybe 10 years ago, I think now, they've started to embed crypto, right? So folks are like much easier to adopt stable coins and crypto because now it's just deeply embedded into the experiences like my previous employer, like Coins.ph, would have, right? And so then the GCashes and the PayMayas and all of these guys start to adopt the stable coins and the crypto, and they see a ton of growth, right? Because now people are already used to building their trust with these, you know, several financial institutions. They already trust digital money, but like real, you know, fiat digital money. And so now crypto is just this new version of digital money for them that makes it much easier to receive remittances and to do everything that they need to do. And because of such a great regulatory landscape and because the machine is very well oiled, you can get in and out of stablecoins, in and out of crypto like very easily.
Very easily. And it's true, like even if they did it with USDC, for example, I mean, you know that you can convert that into fiat very easily.
Yeah.
And there probably wouldn't be a lot of learning sessions that they would require.
No.
Which most of us have had to do.
Yes, exactly.
So in a fast-paced environment like crypto and fintech, how do you personally stay grounded and, you know, consistently learning and navigating, but also redirecting? How are you handling that?
I think from the learning standpoint, I'm very curious. This is why I move to different countries. I travel all the time because my curiosity to learn more and gain more information is so strong. It's deeply embedded into my DNA. So I think that's what's wonderful about the industry, because there's literally something to learn every second if you allow it.
Yes.
But on the other side, like you said, there's a lot going on, and it's hard to kind of know what is and what isn't.
Yeah.
And so for me, one of the things that kind of helped me be grounded, but also continues to motivate me, and which is also what made me to decide to be the co-founder with my co-founder, is that I'm not looking for hype trends. You know, in crypto, there's DePIN is a hot one moment, and DeFi is hot another moment, and this is right. And stablecoins for sure is having a moment. Let's not pretend that it's not in its hype cycle, but more importantly, which is the main thing that I look for, are long-term signals. So when you see Walmart say, okay, hey, I'm going to create my own stablecoin. When you see Western Union say they're creating their own stablecoins. When Stripe acquires Bridge and Privy, so these are large industry players that take a lot of effort to decide to do a new product feature. In fact, some of these companies have not innovated in years. I can think about one particular company that was my partner at Coinbase. And they hired all of these executives from Ripple and everything, and executing on their crypto strategy took forever. But then, now there's so much momentum. Now they've fully leaned in,
of course,
right, to their crypto strategy. And so for me,
it's the trend.
I mean, well, it's the trend that they can't miss.
Yes.
Right. And so for me, that's what actually keeps me grounded, because now I see JP Morgan and all of these financial institutions who have just started their 20% crypto bet, projects. They're all doing it in a meaningful way. And you can start to see the crypto native people kind of, I don't want to say they're getting scared, but people who thought stablecoins were super boring and would have never touched a stablecoin product or company are now being stablecoins are interesting. I love stablecoins.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, that's kind of what I do. I try to figure out where's the real traction, where is the real adoption, how do I consistently overlay that with my personal desire to learn?
Yeah.
And then how do I just really cut out the noise that's not relevant to my day-to-day and the customers that I serve.
So speaking about lessons that you learn, has there been a mistake or a failure that has been your greatest teacher?
Yeah, so I think for this particular question, I don't know if there's one big failure that I've had that that's kind of set me on my journey. But what I'll tell you as a founder, every day you are making mistakes. And I think this has been one of the biggest lessons now being a founder, is that I love to kind of have playbooks. I love to kind of know what benchmarking of success looks like. Okay. And when you work at large corporations, all of these things exist. Yeah. Right? There's already a way to execute the particular thing, or you can look at another competitor and say, okay, this thing worked, right? And so we can do something similar. And for me, I'm having to build out a customer success team. I don't know much about customer success. I have to hire salespeople. I don't know a ton about building out sales teams. It's kind of learning as you go. And at first that gave me a lot of personal friction, because I'm I need to know the answer to this. I need to know that I'm doing it right. Yeah. Right. As kind of a perfectionist, it's really important that I lean into making sure I do everything in my capabilities to make sure it's right and correct. Yes. And I had to let go of that. Yeah. I had to completely let go of that. And trial and error, failing fast is kind of what I've just been like accepting.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, like, you know, making some bad hires. And I'm like, oh, wow, geez, you know, I've learned from it now.
Yeah.
Or not knowing what the team needs for particular support of something. So I'm every day I'm failing and learning in different ways. And it's really great, honestly, because now I've changed who I am. You know, I used to be very uptight, very A-type, and I'm still that. But I'm very much more of like going with the flow of how things turn out. And if it doesn't turn out well, or if it's not in the direction that I want, asking friends, asking, you know, mentors, how have they done a thing? If they tell me a thing and the advice doesn't work, I say, okay, I go talk to someone else, see what they say, and just keep moving. And I think that's the thing. Getting up and moving, getting up and moving.
Yeah. So like you said, you know, fast failures. And I actually like that term because sometimes we overthink those failures. And I think you're right. If you're doing something wrong, I'd rather just let it fail fast. And then I know I can pick up from there. Instead of you learning that it's not working, you know, a few months or years down the line. Failing fast is a good term, Morgan. I'm going to start adopting that. And I so understand with what you're saying when it comes to perfectionism because I'm the same. It probably is noticeable on the podcast as well because it just takes so much time for me to want to do something. I overthink it. And I mean, thankfully, everyone else is, you know, supporting me and I'm here doing what I'm doing. But I know when I've made mistakes. And I know when I'm just like, this isn't that great, but we're just going to have to deal with it.
Exactly.
And that personal shift is, I don't think people realize how personal it is because there's certain things that I wouldn't have put out there. But you just have to because either you're going to keep moving forward or you're going to keep yourself stuck over really minor details.
Exactly.
And you can't keep doing that. Like you're not going to move forward if you keep doing that.
Yeah, 100%. 100% agree.
Yeah. So Morgan, when you're reflecting on your journey, how do you feel? Because you've really gone from not only relocating, from working 9 to 5, if more, not more, from, you know, helping break out Coinbase's base in Africa. Like you've done some amazing projects and now being at Block Radar, that's another amazing project. How do you feel when you're reflecting your journey?
Yeah, if I can reflect on where I was 10 years ago and where I am today, exactly 10 years ago, I wouldn't have at all anticipated that I have the life that I have today. I think I would not have anticipated the failures that I've had, right? And I certainly wouldn't have anticipated the successes that I had. And I'm so grateful for both because I think what the failures early on in my career taught me is how to actually pick up your face and keep going, right? And as a founder, I mean, we kind of talked about this already, but like failure is inevitable, right? Like whatever it is, like maybe a feature failed, you didn't close this deal, you know, again, bad hires, like, it's inevitable. And so, and I remember the first time I really failed as a professional, and I remember how that like took me out. Like I was just like, you know, I could hardly move. You know, because again, like failing was something that I wasn't, you know, used to. And now I'm so grateful that, you know, those years ago I failed in those things and I'm just like, okay, cool. Like, you know what, like it's life, you know, like I'm with it. But then also on the success side, I would have never, if you had asked me literally 10 years ago, Morgan, you know, do you see yourself living in Singapore or Bogota? The answer would be absolutely not. Like, no. I think if people asked me if I would be working in crypto at that time, I would say no. And I certainly would have not thought that I would be a co-founder because I still like helping people like with their dreams, you know, and I just have so much conviction in what we're building that I'm able to step outside of that, but still deep down inside, I enjoy helping other people. This is kind of why I do advisory work as well. But I think that when I reflect on my journey, I just am so excited to see who I've evolved to, you know, like I'm just really grateful for all of these experiences. Someone told me the other day that I was a sociologist, and I was like, never that. And it was this really weird. And this gentleman is an academic, he's a PhD.
Yeah.
And he was telling me this, and he said, Morgan, you lived all over the world. You've traveled to places most people haven't been to.
Exactly.
You know exactly how these cultural nuances reflect in business, reflect in deal making, reflect in just what success looks like. And I was like, I hadn't even thought about it at that moment. I just only took my lived experiences as they were, not realizing how important they are. And so as I reflect on my journey, I'm really grateful for where I've gotten to, and I'm excited for where I'm going.
Yeah. I'm interrupting this episode to remind you to stay safe online. Scams are everywhere, ready to take your hard-earned money. Please ensure that you do not share your passwords, do not click on unusual or unexpected links that come through your emails, text messages, and even WhatsApp, especially when they purport to be from your bank, card company, the government, your crypto exchange, and even family and friends. If you do fall victim to a scam, please report this to your local police as soon as possible. Please also report this to your bank, your card companies, and even your crypto exchange. Please stay safe online. Thank you, and let's go back to the episode. I like to live in an aura of gratefulness every day, because I think what we are doing is so unique. Everyone's journey is so unique, and especially when you're pushing your own boundaries, that's special. Even if someone thinks, it's not a big deal, it is, because just like you said, getting over your own failures is hard work. That takes a major mindset shift, which a lot of people don't realize. So just asking, because I might need help on this factor, but how did your mindset shift to get over failure? What did you do? Was there anything that, you kind of looked into to help you manage that, or was it kind of like, after you've done so many failures, like nothing else can harm me now?
I think I think the hardest part of failure is knowing if you can recover. Right? Because I think that's the thing that, when I was wallowing in my failure in my youth, I was like, how can I recover? How can I be a different person? Right? Like, how could I have done this? And that learning that you can recover and you can rebound and you can have success in that same area that you failed in, I think is the first thing. And you have to acknowledge that, because some people continuously fail and struggle each time they fail, right? But I think for me, it was really focusing on I survived and then I thrived after that failure. And I think the second thing is that I'm just thinking about some failures from early days, 23, 22. And I would say, what's the lesson? What's the lesson here? And so I think that's the other thing, really focusing on the lesson. Okay, so I failed. That happened. Okay. Yeah. Acknowledging that. The second thing is what did I learn? How do I not do this again? Because again, the perfectionist in you still is going to be I don't ever want to do that again. True. Even though that it's going to happen. Yeah. So it'll
happen in a different way.
It'll happen in a different way. It might happen in the same exact way. And you're how did I get here again? But really focusing on the lesson learned, and then, changing what you need to change about yourself or about the situation to then navigate that. And then I think just kind of, I'm a bit of a religious person. So I think just kind of knowing that it's all going to work out, I think is just kind of it's just going to all work out, because every door that's closed, a better door is opened. Yeah. For every door that's open that maybe I forced myself into,
might not be for
exactly.
You.
So I'm you know what, it's all going to work out. I will survive. I will learn. And as long as you can remember survival, thriving, and then learning, I think failure is something you'll welcome.
And I guess with failure, it helps you grow. I mean, if everything was going smooth in your life, I don't even think half of my journey would be what it is, right? It would absolutely be boring.
Exactly.
I mean, I still don't like some of my failures because it makes me cringe.
Yes.
But I guess you're human, right?
Yes.
Like, that's what makes you human.
Exactly.
If you're all perfect, you're no better off than a robot, right?
Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly right.
When things get difficult, especially as a co-founder, for example, fundraising or regulation, how do you handle that? How do you navigate your way through that?
I think it goes back to the last question, because like when it's difficult, it feels like I'm failing. You know, even though maybe I haven't failed, it feels like I'm failing. And again, it's, I'm sure this A-type personality that we both had, you hate even feeling like, oh, I'm about to fail, right? And so I think like it's really identifying what's not working. And so like from a fundraising or from a regulatory standpoint, it's really about getting advice. I think like that, like again, one of my friends told me some years ago, and he was like, Morgan, being a founder is such a lonely journey, right? And he was absolutely right. It is 100% a very lonely journey than like being in a large company where you have lots of coworkers, where if a particular thing is happening, you're experiencing that, likely your teammates are experiencing that, or another team that's adjacent is experiencing that. But then it's just you and a co-founder, you in your small team, and you're like, well, am I only one facing this particular problem?
Yeah.
And so reaching out to mentors, reaching out to friends who have been in the same journey has been a huge lifeline, I think, when things are not going well. Because one, the friends can teach you how to pivot and how to do something differently. I think the other thing is that, you can try different things. Like that's the other thing too, right? Like because when you're doing your own thing, like you're like, it's not just this path. Like fundraising success looks exactly like this.
Yeah.
And it completely doesn't, especially when you don't have a traditional background of what co-founders and founders look like. But you can then try lots of different things, right? And I would say that just being able to take in all of that advice, figuring out what works for you and what doesn't, and then again, like the first step is identifying that, okay, I'm feeling like I'm about to fail. So how do I course correct right now? I think is really helped me through difficulty moments and I would say like maybe not in regulation so much yet, but more again of like team or fundraising or whatever it is.
Yeah, or setting up, customer comms or whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Have you, and I think this is a good question to ask for the audience as well, because becoming a founder is a new path, and a lot of people might want to do that. Did you ever do any, founders networking, or is there anything out there that you know of that someone could go to?
I would love someone to tell me. I haven't. One of the things I'm finding now that I'm in London is like a great place to be is WeWork.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I say that and it's really real because at WeWork, you're interacting with tons of other, founders. And like what WeWork actually does really well is like at these social events. So then you just have these social interactions and then you start to build friends through that. So that's the one thing that I've found. But that's now that I'm here in London. Okay. And this is a very much of a different vibe than Singapore or Bogota or like Chicago, maybe even for that. So I think that. But no, please, to the audience, if you have any resources, let me know.
Or if anyone wants to connect with Morgan, feel free. Go network.
Yes, please.
As a female founder, and in particular an operator in crypto and fintech, what invisible changes did you have to do to overcome, mindset shift and to get to where you are? And this is an invisible change that I guess might be embarrassing, might be very personal, but, something that a lot of people don't talk about. I think that'll be appreciated.
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting one. I think the first thing is that I saw some posts, and this was like probably, I don't know, maybe March or before I had announced that I was a co-founder at Block Radar, and it listed out all these founders from the Coinbase Founder Factory. And it was like, all men, no females. And then if you think about like female founders who are in the crypto space, they're very few. I can think of literally like maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5. Not to say that there are that many, but those are the ones that are top of the mind, right, for you. And so I think the first thing is like remembering that I am unexpected, right? I am unexpected when, I'm talking to a customer, I'm talking to a investor, a partner. Me, I am an unexpected person to arrive. And so I'll tell you about my own personal journey. And, growing up as a Black American, female, my parents always said, you have to work twice as hard, Morgan. You have to work so hard. You have to work so hard for people to, respect you, right? Yeah. To acknowledge you, to give you, the credit you deserve. And so that never left me when I was younger, right? And so I did that when my academics and university and, and so on and so forth. But then now I've gotten into a point in my life, and I mean, my last job, which was not necessarily a place with lots of diversity, whether it's race or gender for that matter, right? Some teams were, gender a bit better in the gender diversity, but I've gotten to a place now that I'm so used to being around men that I forget that I show up, I present as a female. I don't know if that makes any sense.
That makes sense.
Like, meaning like, because I'm so used to just being in this male environment that I have forgotten, I'm not going to say I've forgotten that I work twice as hard, but I have forgotten how I present, like how I look. Yeah. And so now this invisible shift is actually coming back to these core principles my parents taught me of reminding myself, Morgan, you have to work twice as hard. Right. Yeah. And so that doesn't mean like I wasn't working hard, because I've always been working very hard. But now I'm working even harder, right? Even harder. And I talk to some of my co-founder friends who don't look like me, and they're like, oh, I didn't do that. Like, I didn't have to do that. And I'm like, well,
yeah, I had to.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks.
Exactly. And, I think like that has been the invisible shift. And it's so interesting how that can happen. And I think like, it's only a recent realization that I had that. And I think one of the first realizations of having to have that is like in Singapore, obviously I stand out. And my height, like everything. And I forgot that I stand out, right? Like I don't blend in, right? Even though like I feel like I've blended in, everyone treats me that way, but I stand out. And so then when I have these different interactions, I have to remember, oh, actually, I'm different. And so now that is like manifesting in exactly how I'm having to approach my journey as a co-founder. So,
Yeah. I love it. I love when I see women dominating in male-dominated fields. Yes. And I do agree, because I came from law enforcement, and again, my team was male-dominated. So like you said, being, ethnic minority and female, you do have to work harder, and that is embedded in you. And also within the crypto and fintech world, there is still that stigmatism where they do expect a man to walk through the door. Do you know how many times I've had to email someone, set up a meeting, and they will reply back to me saying, Mr. Peril, and I'm just like, okay, this is great. You're going to be shocked when I turn on my camera.
You and me both, because my name is Morgan. So
exactly.
It's 100% a surprise.
Yeah, and I feel like you can see this like facial change, and it's like, oh, okay, miss, and you're just like, it's okay, don't worry.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too, you learn to pick up, especially if you are like in a call with multiple teammates, and maybe you're the only woman, or you're the only something. Yeah, and you can see how people's eyes gravitate. It's harder to do that on the camera because you never know where your pictures are, right? But you start to see that in these meetings that like, okay, I'm going to focus on this particular person because I think they're the decision maker. I think that they know what's going on. Yeah. And so then I picked up on that, earlier, like maybe a few years ago in my career. And so I know where someone has decided to put their respect towards. Yeah. And so if I notice it's not me, or if I notice there's like a lack of like eye contact or connection, okay, I need to bring you in and help you understand that I'm serious and that this is what this is going to look like. And please, interact with me the same way you would if I didn't look like how you expected me to look, And so I think that's a really interesting one that I'm sure we've both experienced on different meetings being women and like them just expecting us not to be like to just be there like the secretary or whatever. Yeah,
just like the note taker.
Exactly. Right? Like she's just here for appearances, not for actual execution and decision making.
That is true. I still remember I presented at a conference and someone came up to me after saying, I didn't expect you to have done so many investigations and done all of this in your background. And I was like, oh, okay, what did you expect? And they were just like, oh, we thought you were part of a different team, actually, that you were just here to do like marketing for the conference. Yes. And then I go up and I'm talking about my investigations that I've done in my law enforcement world and stuff. And it's like, oh, so you got a brain behind you as well. Like, whoa.
Exactly. Oh my God. Yeah. I think that first started happening to me in college when I went to the University of Michigan. So I went to the University of Michigan, which is a school really good at sports, but also academically inclined. Yeah. And everyone would be like, well, you're an athlete, right? And I'm also very tall. Like for the folks in the camera, I'm very tall. Yeah. This is a meters country, right? So I'm about 1.78 meters. And so everyone's like, you must be an athlete. Volleyball, basketball. Yeah. No, I'm here as a academic student. Yeah. So yeah, I completely can agree with that.
Yeah, and I'm quite sure so many female like audience members will be looking at this and thinking, yeah, same here.
Exactly.
But I love that we are continuing forward, even with all of these additional obstacles. Like I genuinely love females dominating in male-dominated areas.
Yes.
And Morgan, you are a visible example of that, not only being female, but also being an ethnic minority female, especially in tech. Like I said, that's predominantly men. So what do you want your journey to unlock for others that are viewing this, but also our young female audience members?
Yeah, so I think it's twofold. I think maybe it's a couple of things. I'll just list them all. But I think the first thing is really setting your mind to what you want to do and then doing exactly that. And I think like eliminating self-doubt about, can I do it? Like imposter syndrome is going to happen. And you just kind of have to lean into it, right? And until you are at the point where you feel that you've, are doing the thing that you want to do. So I think the first thing is really being clear with yourself of what you want, and don't let, the different obstacles or societal norms suggest that you're incapable of doing that thing. I think the next thing is to look for resources and mentors, just like you suggested that I have some for the audience, people who've been in your journey. And I think it's really important to do that with people who are like yourself. So if you're a woman, I think it's actually really good to talk to other women about these sort of journeys, because I think they can open your eyes to how you need to show up and present, right, in a way that is effective. And I remember when I first started my job when I was 22, and I was in this like rotation program, and one of the people in the class ahead of mine said, Morgan, you should, and this is like, people were kind of wearing suits and business casual back then. Yeah. Women, you should consider wearing suits, or, casual pants, throw out the skirts. And I was like, well, I thought that I was taught in business school that I should actually lean into the skirts to be more,
the female corporate.
Yeah,
look,
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And she was like, no, because you're going to be more respected when you come in with pants, right? And so like just different things like that like, a man wouldn't probably be able to even identify, right, as a thing. So I think talking to people who are like you, that can actually speak to certain experiences and help you like show up in a way the way that you want to be able to show up. And I think the second thing, which is the category I'm in today, is that when there's no one who looks like you and there's no one around or very few people around who has had your experience, you have to know like who are the people in your circle who are like really, really good at what they do. And so like I have this great mentor and I always go to him for advice, and he's a white male. And every time he's like, Morgan, channel your inner white man. And like that's like this really weird thing to say, but it's actually channeling this confidence that I can do anything. Like I can do things that I don't know how to do, but I'm going to convince you that I can do anything. Yeah. And I think like finding these people who do the thing that you like really well and not being afraid to reach out to them. Yeah. And this mentor is a founder. He's exited in his business, and he's been through all of the stuff that I've been through. And so I've been able to build a rapport with him in a way that has been really helpful. And so don't be afraid to also, when you run out of people who look like you that can help you, absolutely go to the master of what it is that you're looking to do. Yeah.
What is the industry norm?
Exactly. Because I actually think like one of the things I find is like some of my friends who hit a wall or a ceiling, it's because once they finally get to the place where no one else looks like them, they stop there because they don't feel like they have a lot of support. Yes. Right? And the thing is you have to create your own support, right? You know, so it's a journey. First, it's identifying who and what you want to be. Then it's finding those people who do look and feel and have very similar experiences as you, whether it's disabilities or whatever it is, right? And then like getting out of that ceiling and realizing, okay, all of these men, if you will, are doing great success in these areas. And the only way I'm going to learn how to be successful in these areas is if I, ask them and learn from them. The source. And build a rapport and a relationship with them.
And I think that's important even for them to understand, because like having a mentor that is, the traditional white male in a male-dominated field, sometimes they've had different ways of navigating their career, which we wouldn't have either thought of or even realized. And that's just also because generationally we've come from, different backgrounds. Like my parents probably wouldn't have experienced that either. So can they really give me that advice?
Exactly.
Not really.
Exactly.
And then it's also sometimes our, white male counterparts don't understand what we might be experiencing. And that's also a generational divide and background cultural divide as well, where they don't understand why we might feel imposter syndrome, for example. I got asked that once, before I was doing my first conference. And it was just like, why would you feel imposter syndrome? And it's like, I don't think you realize I'm also the first generation in my family that's gone to university. Exactly. I'm the first one that's ever done any of this work. Crypto is not known in my family. Yes. So do you know how many firsts these are for me?
Exactly.
That I don't have people around me that can give me what I need. So I might be nervous today, but in 10 conferences time, I know I'll smash it. But I'll still be cringing over my mistakes. But, we'll get there.
Exactly. And I think that's where your lived experiences come in. Yeah. Right? To what they think it should be. But again, that's why this advice that he gave of having this confidence. Because like you said, the guy just assumed, why on earth would you have an imposter syndrome? Yeah. Right? How do you actually how do you trick yourself to say that? Like, you're getting upset. Why should I be nervous? Yeah. I can do this. And so I very much I very much take that mantra every day.
No, I love it.
And that's why I probably forgot that I was like, oh, yeah, I actually am not a white man. So I need to, remember these other things. But I think I think it's great advice, honestly. And maybe some audience members won't agree. But I do think it's helped for sure. Like help me open up doors, talk to people, talk to clients. I mean, it's just giving me the confidence that I've needed to get my job done, right? And I would tell anyone and everyone to look for mentors outside and who are doing exactly what they want to do.
Yeah. And I think that's key, because it doesn't have to be within the industry that you want to dominate in. It doesn't have to be in the industry that you've worked in. It can be somewhere else where you get inspiration. Morgan, has there ever been a time that you've faked confidence to get through?
All the time.
All the time.
All the time. I was just telling one of my teammates, who was saying, hey, Morgan, can you help me with speaking through some of our customer interactions? I don't really know how to do that. And he's an engineer, so, it's not his training. And I was like, just vibe it. Like, go in and realize that the other person on the other side is likely not gonna know if you said the wrong thing or not. Yeah. Right? So you just have to go in and pretend like you know what you're talking about. And that is going to give you enough confidence so that you actually can talk about the thing. Because when and I'm sure this happens to you or myself, the moment that you have it all figured out in your mind, but the moment that insecurity comes in, your mind goes blank. Yeah. You've forgotten everything. You feel like you're super incompetent. You don't know anything. And so the only way to then be able to actually to execute well, to say the thing well, to do the presentation well, is to trick yourself and say like, oh, I know what I'm talking about. I'm great. Yeah. Even if it's wrong, it's okay. They won't, like, I'll tell them that I'm right. It's just, right? And I think
the self-talk is so important.
It's imperative. Yeah. I think, I was telling the same gentleman, I had to be an MC for one of my friends' weddings recently. I've never been an MC, it's a Singaporean wedding, so I don't even know the structure or anything. Yeah. And I got up there and I was just like, you know what, Morgan? I'm just going to do what I think is the best representation of my friends. Yeah. I'm going to go have a conversation with myself. And I was up there telling jokes to myself. The audience wasn't even there. Yeah. And the feedback actually was that I did a fantastic job. But I didn't even, if I focused on like, oh my God, this is my first time doing this. Like, I've never been an MC. I don't know how this audience will be. I don't know how they'll receive me. If I focus on those things, like, I would have got up there and I'd have been like, hi, everyone, my name is, and instead I was like, hey, everyone, how's it going? Like, are you having a good time? Can we have a drum roll, please? Like, I was just, and it's this self-talk. It's this self-talk of confidence to build that actual confidence to the point where you can go into these conversations, presentations, and really just kind of be natural.
Yeah. And also be yourself. Because sometimes I know if you're trying to, in certain situations, you're going to be who you are. And if you try to, imitate someone else that might be at the same conference as you, or you think what they might want to hear in a certain type of way, I also think that sometimes sets you up for failure. So sometimes it's, having the self-confidence, but also owning who you are. You don't have to use, every jargon in the dictionary to get your point across. If you're saying it in a simple way and that's comfortable to you, own it. And that's probably going to help someone else that's listening to you anyway. You don't need to use certain language to make yourself seem like you know what you're doing. Sometimes actually just explaining it in a simple way will help you, and something that you're comfortable with as well.
100%. I 100% agree. Yeah.
Morgan, we're getting to the last segment of this episode.
Oh, right. Yes.
So you get to choose your question, but you're going to have to choose an asset first. So I feel like I know what you're going to choose. But
since this has been all about crypto,
are you going to choose crypto? So I'll still ask the question.
Would
cash,
you want me?
Well, cash, crypto, or commodities?
I need to be able to have confidence in this answer.
Okay.
So I will choose crypto.
Choose crypto. Okay. Well, the question put forward to you is, what would you do differently if you could go back in time?
Yeah, I think that is a good one. And I think that I can answer that probably in many ways. Like, I think when I first think about it, I was like, I should have invested in BTC like in 2011. And no, but
I wish we all could have did that.
Right? Like one of the things.
I would be retired. I'm joking.
It'd be a total sidebar, but like Australia, I feel like so many people in that Australian crypto scene are like all like BTC like millionaires. Like I'm like how did everyone know to jump on this thing back then?
Why didn't we?
Exactly. I'm like, you know what? Like, so no, but that is one thing I would do differently. I think the other thing that I would do differently is, that's the question, right? What would I do differently?
Yeah.
I think the other thing that I would do differently is I probably would have gotten into crypto earlier, not investing wise, but in my career, because I think that I'm so bullish on the foundations of blockchain and its practical use case in where like the industry is going, right? That it has been, and some might argue the opposite, but I think it's been and it's going to continue to be this great equalizer across economies, right? And so I think if I could have done anything differently, it would have been to have really gotten into crypto much earlier on so that I can know more about practical use cases that have been in the past. I mean, this is like a FinCrime, sort of podcast. So learning about some of the things that went really wonky and wrong in, the crypto space and really figuring out, okay, like what can I do today to prevent some of these things? And so I think like for me, if I had just been in this space earlier, I think I would feel like I have a better repository of knowledge and information and like successes and failures. So I think I would just have probably tried to work in crypto back in 2018 if I could have.
I think sometimes I think the same. And then I'm just like, it wasn't even that big back then. There wasn't that many opportunities back then either.
There wasn't.
And sometimes I'm also like, everyone's more involved now. So I truly think the adoption is widespread now, where back then there wasn't that many people even in Coinbase's office, right? So I don't know whether there would have been that many opportunities, but I do agree where if I was to go back, I wish I did also invest in Bitcoin ages ago.
Right?
But maybe I wouldn't be here today.
We wouldn't,
right?
and we likely
the
wouldn't
butterfly effect is always in play.
Exactly.
And I'm not sure if everyone agrees with that. Like, would you have done something different back in a different time? Or do you believe in the butterfly effect where, doing something different 10 years ago, would that lead you to the path today, or would it be something different? We don't know, do we?
We definitely don't know.
Yeah.
And no, like I'm happy for where I'm at today.
Yeah.
But if I could have, those are the things that I would have done, because then if we had invested in BTC, I for sure we wouldn't be here.
No,
because we would just be living off of our...
Maybe in Colombia, right? In a yacht.
Exactly.
Out of Bogota.
Exactly. In a yacht somewhere, like vibing.
That's still a dream.
Yes.
Tomorrow, if it goes up.
Exactly.
Morgan, I'm going to pass you my book so you can write a question for the next guest.
Okay.
But thank you so much for being here today. It's so inspiring listening to your story. And I can't wait to see you continuing to, break through barriers and just continue doing amazing things.
Thank you.
And I do also hope that my audience provide some networking opportunities, and even if it's just for females. And I think having you there will be so good, especially for ethnic minority females in the industry and also outside the industry. You're very inspirational. I look up to you. And I think one day I do hope I can also take the step and do my own thing. You never know.
Yes, you've already started.
Very true.
And I think you have done an amazing job so far.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone back at home watching this, or if you're in your commute or wherever you're watching this. I hope you really enjoyed this episode. Hope you learned more about Block Radar, but also Morgan. And to all my female audience out there, if you want to get involved and invite us to any of your networking events, please feel free to drop a message, drop me a DM. And, Morgan is on LinkedIn. So if you also want to catch her, Morgan Williams on LinkedIn, drop her a DM as well. And I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you. Leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Leave a comment and let me know what else you want me to discuss. And subscribe to stay tuned for more.